Let's start with assessment first. So first of all, I think I used several, like I always use CCQs with concept checking questions, like when I kind of ask for, confirmation.
Yeah.
Thumbs up and thumbs down. I showed it to them through the lesson, and it kind of naturally occurred to them. But then the next lesson, the next day, they started to show it to me themselves.
Yeah.
I didn't even provoke it, so I was happy to see that. And then write and show or say.
I liked the different ways that you got them to give you answers. It wasn't just like, always write down the answer. There was a nice variety of it. So like sometimes it was a drawing, or sometimes it was like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or sometimes you asked them to repeat, to say out an answer, so a verbal one. So I felt like you were addressing all different kinds of like learning abilities, and that children who maybe couldn't have written down a word as an answer, they were able to draw it instead. So I felt like your assessment method was good. You were spanning the whole range of all the different kind of like learning styles.
Like I'm very happy with the way the assessment lesson went, because the Wheel of Fortune was a lot of work for me.
And it was so much fun. Did you hear them? Did you hear them squealing with delight? I think it was really good. I think it was even like, it was a lot of work for you to prepare. But the concept is a simple concept, right? But they were still really enthralled with it. And you could definitely tell just from playing the game without which areas were their main interest, animals, and then I'd say the buildings, the landmarks.
I think it's because of the pictures.
Yes, exactly what I wrote. The kids are like crazy about animals and like the visuals, having the visuals. And I kind of ranked like which I thought was their favourite was definitely animals, and then landmarks. And I think a big part of it was having those visuals.
It kind of helped them to understand better, whereas with the common facts to start with, they were quite hard.
Yeah.
And I tried to, as I said, I tried to make it as easy as possible.
And like I was thinking, like what kind of visuals could you have put for those common facts? Because they were kind of hard facts to be able to have a representation like visually. But I think it's good because you could see from that, just from like their enthusiasm, you could even rate that as to what areas they were most interested in and what areas they maybe weren't so interested in, and you use that to inform your planning for another time.
Another question I wanted to ask you is, were there any kids who I should have paid more attention to? Because I feel like I've monitored, and I could obviously see which partner was like a leader, let's say, but with a slight reminder or a suggestion to switch partners, switch the work, nobody really refused. But the kids better than I do, and I feel like I might have missed something in this, even though I tried to monitor.
No, but it's an impossible task, and that's why luckily we mostly have a co-teacher. So even for me, when I'm doing a lesson, I pretty much know that I'll have someone who has half the class, I think you were aware and you were trying to circulate as best you can, but you are still one person and there's, 20 children. So I think that you did monitor the room well, and that you did get to the children who needed some extra help or some support.
Okay, planning for instruction and instruction strategies. We've already discussed that this was a completely new concept, and it was out of nowhere, really. The method of me speaking and them writing down things.
Yeah.
And I was really stressed about it, yet I still wanted to try. And I knew it could cause some troubles, and which it did. They were completely...
For the first section, they were like...
hit the wall, and they were like,
and
what
even
are we doing?
when I was like, write down, you can write, but they were still so conditioned.
Go.
Yeah, they wanted maybe a pause, but then you did give that time.
That was my accommodation.
Yes.
To be honest, I had to change my lesson plan, and to be honest, from the start, I was ready to be very flexible. I kind of wrote it in a way that I could play with it.
Yes.
My only concern was the time, and I knew that I wouldn't have time for everything. That's why I decided to break it into 2 blocks, and I think it was a good decision.
And it's one of those things again, where once they got, is it recording?
Yeah, it's recording. It's just a weird advertisement. Sorry.
But as they got going, with everything, then they got into their stride and they understood it. and definitely like again the parts with the visuals, like they really appeal to them. Because they still are really at that kind of that age where like pictures really stimulate their learning.
Even about common facts, when I was preparing the presentation and everything, I thought about showing them videos, like short videos that I found on YouTube. But again, for the sake of saving time, I thought it would be better if I just put the information that I need them to know into the text and make it simple. I think it was a good idea, but what I should have done, I should have put landmarks and animals first.
Yes.
And common facts and geography last. So they would know it would kind of gradually increase the challenge. I think first block was a bit challenging for them, the first lesson. And I felt nervous as well. Like I felt like, especially the first 10-15 minutes, I was going through the rows, seeing them not writing anything, and I was like, oh my god, this is a disaster, I failed. And then kind of that we went further and further, and I could see that it kind of picked up the logic of it. I was like...
And they were really disappointed when they came back from snack, and they were like, where's Miss Tati? Where's the game? And I said, no, we're going to do it tomorrow instead, the next time.
Yeah, they were really... I was feeling guilty about it. I wanted to see, for me, it was important to see how well this kind of lesson could really help them to learn, because the point of any lesson is for them to remember something, and I'm sure if I could ask them about some Asian animals or Asian landmarks, a lot of them could name them.
And they could in the game.
But then some of them might even able to reply of how many countries are in Asia or something like simple questions like this. But then when I did self-assessment, again, I could see that it's a completely new concept for them, and they didn't really know what to do. And I even told them there's no mistakes possible because it's your opinion, but it's a very alien thing for them. And some of them weren't sure what to do, and some of them didn't fill in the questions. Which is okay, and by the way lesson went, I kind of could see what happened there. But if I got to teach this lesson again, I'd probably have to do the geography and common facts again with a little more visual support.
I think you can definitely say that a lot of them came out with good knowledge about Asian animals and Asian landmarks, for sure.
Well, that's again for me to reflect on.
But I think that the game was a very good way to assess them, and I felt that they showed that they had learned new information, and by that time they were working well in partners. They were, so again, like a little bit at the beginning again about who has the pencil and who's, but then even some pairs who had maybe been told a few times, I could then hear them saying, it's your turn now, and passing the pencil. So
I could see some of them switching.
So they didn't need any intervention there, so it just takes time, and I think still even with this age group, that at the beginning it's still not there, even though they did it last lesson with you, and then they're building it up, and then they're remembering again, okay, this is how we have to work well in partners.
Is there anything that you didn't like or should have I done differently?
I just thought just a little bit about the content, that what we just said basically. I don't speak too long because you have to edit. Just basically about the content was a little bit difficult for the first section of the quiz, and because it was text and no image, but that was it really.
Yeah, well, that's again something that I would consider next time, and not make the same mistakes. So for me, I knew that social studies is something that are not tested on, right? So for me, it was really about being fun, and something that they could learn about Asia, because it's the continent, and you're doing Asia for the International Day. So something that they can use in real life, and something that they could just in general remember.
And we will build on what you did, because we will do about Asian animals and landmarks in Vietnam, so they'll have already seen the Golden Bridge and the Asian elephant and stuff, so we will be revisiting your PowerPoint probably and using that, and we might play the game again if you let me borrow the pencil.